Thank you, Mr Speaker, and it's great to see Mr Peters and his cult has come down to the House this evening, and we've got the same lines we always have about polls and things like that, but you never listen to Mr Peters because that's always the stuff he comes to this House with. But this is another example of Mr Peters and New Zealand First being anti-immigration. That's all this bill is about. It's not about money, it's saying no to people coming to New Zealand. That's the anti-immigration party, and this is another anti-immigration bill put forward by that party. It's a disgrace to this parliament to see a parliament party in this House, and we know exactly what they think about immigration, and that is something that is against the good nature of all New Zealanders. Because we have a free and open country. We have a country that wants to take its place in the modern world. We have a country that welcomes people to this country and welcomes their families. And we do not discriminate against our migrants like the New Zealand First Party wants to. We have always had in New Zealand an immigration process and a policy of treating all migrants the same, where we give them the same opportunities and abilities. We do not discriminate, and that is something that that party over there seeks to bring into our legislation, seeking to discriminate against people on the basis of age, seeking to discriminate on the basis of the parent category of immigration. That goes against the fundamental principles of this parliament and of this country, and New Zealanders do not believe in that approach, because New Zealanders are fair-minded people that want to welcome migrants and give them the fair opportunity to be here, unlike the New Zealand First Party. When we look at this...
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Piraparoni.
Mr Speaker, the member has been on his feet for some minutes now, and no mention, no reference has been made to the bill that's before the House.
Well, I understand. I hear what the member's saying. In 2 minutes, now we'll have some substantive debate on what this bill's about. David Bennett.
Okay, Mr Speaker, let's have a look at this bill, the Affordable Healthcare Bill. It says that if you come from if someone is in the parent category, they have to have compulsory insurance, medical insurance. Well, how would that be enforced? How would that be enforced? Take the example of somebody coming into New Zealand that maybe did have medical insurance but didn't keep it for the whole 10 years. Would that party then deport that person after 6 years when they're on dialysis in a hospital, if they're getting cancer treatment and about to die? Would that party be so cruel to deport that person? I don't think they would. I don't think they would, because they know New Zealanders wouldn't want that to happen. This bill is not enforceable because the rules that it sets cannot be implemented in our community. What about refugees? Would refugees be required to? No. Well, the bill doesn't say that, and this is the party that wants to increase the refugee quota to 1,000 refugees, and this bill is silent about refugees. Is the New Zealand First Party going to make refugees and they have to actually go and get insurance policies? What about if someone had pre-existing medical conditions? What if somebody came into New Zealand with a pre-existing medical condition, couldn't get insurance for that, but still could get in New Zealand because they passed their medical test? Then what would happen under that bill for the party?
Order. I'd actually like to hear what's going on and what's being said, so long as it's on the subject. David Bennett.
Yes, Mr Speaker. So there are some major holes in this legislation, as we've just gone through there. But there's another element of this legislation we have to look at, and that is the discriminatory part of the legislation that the Attorney-General noted in his report, because it discriminates on the basis of age. Some people that could come into the parent category could be as young as 35 years of age. They could have a lifetime ahead of them in this country, and they would be discriminated against under this bill. The report of the Attorney-General says there's a prima facie case of discrimination on family status, parenthood and national origin, because this bill actually creates an exemption for Pacific people. It says people from the Pacific do not have to get a 10-year insurance policy. Well, let's have a look at there is no definition of the Pacific in the bill, but the Pacific would include countries like China, the US, Australia, and all those other countries that mount the Pacific Ocean. So is that part, well, I have read the bill, member, and it doesn't say that. There is no definition of the Pacific in the bill. Why should the Pacific Island category be given a different category from any other migrant to New Zealand? What is the difference between somebody that is in the Pacific Rim and somebody that may have come from Africa or Europe or somewhere else into this country? And I say to the Labour Party and the Green Party, how can they support a bill that has been said to be a breach of the Bill of Rights? How can the Labour and Green Party that come into this House every day, we saw it today, we saw it yesterday, talking about human rights, the Bill of Rights, and yet they're going to support a bill that has been considered to be against the Bill of Rights? I say, how can the Labour Party and Green Party sleep at night when they are supporting bills like this? Because they cannot do that under this legislation. Mr. Speaker, this bill is an attack on migrants. That's what it is. It is not a bill to save money. It's an attack on migrants. We know that party is against migration. Mr. Peters, we know your stance on this. We know what your deputy said last week about migrants. And it is a disgrace that this party is in this parliament and that these kind of bills are brought forward by a party like that that is purely discriminatory and against people having fair rights and an equal chance in New Zealand. And Mr. Speaker, we will not support this bill.
Mr. Speaker.